everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we have the mid-year book freakout tag. So this is a video that we do on BookTube every single year, basically just saying that the year is halfway over and we're going to go through some questions, talk about our highs and lows, that kind of stuff. So I think we're going to jump on in. I will have the original video and creators that I can find linked down below for you, and let's jump into it. So question number 1 is the best book that you have read so far this year. And this is one that I've definitely talked about on my channel before because I do wrap-ups every single month, but I have mentioned it is my favorite book of the year so far, and I have not read anything to dethrone it. So my favorite book is definitely Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. I read this couple months ago now at this point, like February or March. I actually have no idea when. And I fell in love with this. Like 100%, absolutely loved it. This one was an Illumicrate edition that came in at the very beginning of last year, and I somehow put it off, and I am so mad at myself just because of the fact that I loved it so much. This is a book that has multiple different genres that I feel like you could fit it in. It is definitely sci-fi, it is definitely romance, it definitely has a mystery element to it as well. Like, the characters are trying to figure out exactly what happened while they're building their romance, and I just absolutely fell in love with the characterization. The world, I love that it is a queer normative world. Like, it is just something that is part of society, and there is lots of different representation and diversity in here, and it was beautiful. I need to reread this because I just feel like I need to. However, I don't know when that's going to happen just because there's so many things to do, and by things to do, I don't even just mean like books to read. I mean, I'm about to have a baby and I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick this up and reread it anytime soon, but I absolutely love this one. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year. This one was a little bit harder because I don't think I've read too many sequels, or if I have, it's also because I started a series this year and like have sort of like tried to continue with it, but the one that I think is like at the top of the sequels I have read is Keeper of the Lost Cities Neverseen by Shannon Messenger. This is the 4th book 4, yes, of the Keeper of the Lost Cities series, and I absolutely love this one, like so much. This is a middle grade fantasy series. They're chunky books, but because it is middle grade, it is very easy to read. I read these so much quicker than like what you would assume just based on page number. I think also the text is, actually the text isn't like too big, but I love the fact that we have the magical elements that we have here. The friendship aspect in these books is like such a high priority that I love the friendship groups that we have. We've also been getting into like some conspiracies in these books, and I'm so excited to see where the series is going to go next. I actually have book 5 and I have not read it yet because it hasn't come up in my TBR games quite yet, and I've been slumping a little bit with reading, but this one was so much fun. Like, I literally devoured it in like probably like a day and a half, something like that. I love this series so much, and this was a great sequel. Question number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to. So I have a couple for this one. The first is Renegade Love by Anne Aguirre. This is the 3rd book in the Strange Love series. This actually came out in January. It is the 3rd book in this series, like I said, of sci-fi romance novels. I absolutely loved the 1st book, really enjoyed the 2nd one, and I'm so excited for this 3rd one, and I just haven't picked it up yet. However, if you have watched my recent TBR video, you will know that I am planning on reading this book for the Indie Accords, which is happening in July. So I have full intentions of reading this book next month, and so I haven't read it yet, desperately want to, and it is on my list. The other one that I definitely needed to talk about is A Hunt of Shadows by Elise Kova. This is the sequel to A Trial of Sorcerers that I read last year. Fell in love with, 5 out of 5 stars, like one of the top books that I read last year. And I got this with full intentions of reading it the month it came out, and it did not get picked for a poll pick that I did, and so because of that, I just hadn't read it yet. I didn't have enough time to read it, but this is one that I really want to read by the end of the year. It is a gorgeous book. Actually, both of these books that I'm talking about right now are self-published indie books, and so Yeah, I definitely want to read this one. The first book in this series is a fantasy, had a little bit of romance, and it has like a magical competition in it, which I absolutely loved. And I think we're going to have more potential competition stuff in this book. Definitely more magic though, obviously, because it is a fantasy setting. But yes, I definitely want to read this as well. Question number 4 is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Knowing me, I couldn't just pick one. I did have a video go up recently actually of new releases coming out this quarter coming up, so July, August, and September. I'll leave a link down below in case you're curious about that, because I have like 35 titles I think on that list that I'm excited for. But I did end up picking 3 that I wanted to talk about specifically. So the first one we have here is Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston. This one I think is coming out August? I don't know, but I love the first book, Amari and the Night Brothers, so much that I desperately need this book. This is a middle grade fantasy, but it also feels sort of Men in Black-ish because the fantasy elements are part of our world, but like sort of invisible to normal people. Again, the first book had a magical competition, which is like one of my favorite things, and I need to see where this series and this next book is going to go. The next one is Husband Material by Alexis Hall. I read Boyfriend Material, I think in 2020, as sort of like a standalone romance. Like, I don't think we knew we were going to get a sequel at that point. Absolutely loved it. It is very tongue-in-cheek male-male romance. Like, it's very humorous, but at the same time definitely has the good romance like build up. It is a fake dating sort of trope thing too, which I love, and this book is going to be a direct sequel. I don't know too much about it. I'm assuming they're planning a wedding or something because it's husband material instead of boyfriend material, but I need this book. And then the last one that I wanted to talk about is Ocean's Echo by Everina Maxwell. Obviously, like I said before, Winter's Orbit is my favorite book of the year so far. Like, nothing has dethroned it since I read that one. And this book, I believe, is coming out in November. It is not a direct sequel or anything to Winter's Orbit, but it is set in the same world. And again, this sci-fi setting with the queer normative stuff going on, like, I'm just so excited. I also love the fact that in Winter's Orbit we had the different genres that all sort of just melded together to make one book, and I'm very excited for that. Don't ask me what the synopsis is for this book right now because I don't remember whatsoever, but I need this book desperately. Question number 5 is your biggest disappointment. So I don't even have a book to hold up for this. It's going to be Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Weir. So this is a book that on Goodreads has like 4-point-something stars. Everybody seems to love it so much. I even tried to read it for a vlog, and I'm disappointed because it is not my book. I'm not saying that it is a bad book whatsoever, but the writing style is 100% not for me. I was not interested in most of what was going on. I tried to push through, and there was one part where we ended up in like a sparring battle. Like, it wasn't like an actual battle, but it was like a sparring sort of situation, and the action of that was not even actiony enough for me to actually enjoy it. Like, I was bored through the action, so I DNF'd this book. I felt really bad about it, but I knew I was not going to be able to get through it for me, and so that was very disappointing. Question number 6 is your biggest surprise. So this one I have talked about before because, again, I think I did it in a vlog, but it's going to be Lost Boy by Christina Henry. So I read a different Christina Henry called The Ghost Tree, I think back in 2020. Absolutely hated it. Like, despised, loathed. It had elements in it that I just did not enjoy, did not agree with. It was a horror because she does write horror. Like, this is a horror version of like the origin story of Hook and Peter Pan, that kind of stuff. But that book that I read before, The Ghost Tree, had stuff about pedophilia and like sexual assault of a minor and racism, and one of the point of view characters was very racist, and it didn't seem like there was a reason to be in that person's head, like, at all with the racism. It was just like there was a lot of little things that built up for me to hate that book. This one, I did not give a full 5 stars because the ending was a little bit disappointing, but I really did enjoy my time reading it. I gave it a 4-star, and I was so surprised because I did go into this thinking I was gonna hate it because I hated the other book that I read, but I didn't. I really enjoyed my time reading it, and so I am curious now about some of her other retellings compared to her original work. Question number 7 is your favorite new author. This could be a debut author or an author that is new to you. And so for this one, again, I have a couple, mostly just because I had to mention Everina Maxwell again. I loved Winter's Orbit. This is my first time reading from them. I think that was their debut when that came out. But also S.A. Barnes. I read Dead Silence in January of this year, the first book I read of the entire year, and I thought that one might have been my favorite of the year until I read Winter's Orbit. But I really, really enjoyed that one. It was a sci-fi horror, more sci-fi than horror, but definitely still had those elements that, again, I really, really enjoyed. This author, it's not their debut. They've written some YA stuff under a different name. So I do think S.A. Barnes is a pen name for their more adult horror stuff. I don't know if they have anything else planned under that name, but I really, really did enjoy that book as well. I love the writing, I love the storytelling, and so yes. Number 8 is your newest fictional crush. I don't actually have one this year. I don't get them all that often, but also usually when it happens with adult romances because I do feel like the characters are older and I, relate to that a little bit more. But the romances I've been reading this year, I haven't read as many like male-female romances, and so I haven't gravitated towards any specific like male character like I normally would. So I don't really have a fictional crush. Number 9, newest favorite character though. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention Kiam and Jainan from Winter's Orbit. They as a couple are just like perfect. I love the way that they worked through their issues in here when they did have issues. We definitely have some instances that could be classified more as like emotional abuse from a previous relationship as well. And the fact that they actually are trying to help each other out with that is just like amazing to me. Like I love them so, so much. But I also loved Claire and Delilah from Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. So I have been loving some romances, but they're just not characters that I personally would find myself having a crush on. But again, I loved this dynamic so, so much. This is a like sister's best friend type of romance. But the way that they come together and also explore some of their past issues from when they were like teenagers, I absolutely love this one. I love the dynamic between them because they are pretty different in terms of personality. One of them is also a single mother, and yes, if you have not read this one, you need to do it. It's very hyped up, but I think it is definitely worth the hype. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry. So I don't know if I necessarily cry with a lot of books. However, if a book makes me really, really happy, laugh out loud, or gives me those emotions like the heartbreak, that kind of stuff, I definitely love those books. But the ones that I think actually 100% made me cry are Saga from Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. So at the beginning of this year, I think we read 7, 8, and 9. I can't remember exactly when we read them, but we definitely read at least these two, and I know that for sure. But I was reading this with a group of wonderful ladies who I will leave linked down below. We were doing some like reading these, live chats about them, that kind of stuff. And if you've been on my channel for any time recently, you know I'm pregnant. And so while we were reading these, I was definitely getting very, very emotional with the books, like in general, like the commentary it had, the characterizations, like just everything about it. There were definitely some very poignant lines that our main character of Hazel had said in these that got me, like just instantly got me. And I did find myself multiple times like actually tearing up at these books. Now, I don't know for sure if I would have been like full on crying if I wasn't pregnant with hormones going crazy, but I do know that they hit very, very hard, and these ones for sure I was crying. Number 11, a book that made you happy. So quite a few of these probably could fit for this, but I think the one that's going to fit the most is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. So I had been putting off Heartstopper, not like consciously really, but because it was getting a lot of hype from people over the last like year or so on BookTube, and I never had owned them. So when Heartstopper came out on Netflix as the TV show, it popped up. I decided to watch it. Absolutely loved that one, and then decided to jump in and read the books because you can actually read them all on Webtoon. And let me tell you, They are so good. They make me so happy. I will say the later volumes in the series do have some more hard topics compared to like the TV show. We really haven't had as much like hard topics, like they're going to get into like mental health and eating disorders and that kind of stuff eventually, but in general, the characters, the way that they have support from friends and family, like it made me so happy. And so yes, I had to mention that. Number 12, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. So I've been on a pretty big book buying ban this year. Like I have not gotten very many like hardcover physical books. I do have some ebooks that I've purchased through like Humble Bundles or things that were on sale. So obviously with this I would have to pick an Illumicrate book because it's one of the subscriptions I actually have still this year. And so the first one that came to mind, just because I love what they did with the dust jacket as well, even though Illumicrate is very good about like giving us stuff under the dust jacket, naked hardcovers, that kind of thing, but A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. This book, first of all, the dust jacket is gorgeous, and I love the fact that it doesn't actually fit the US or the UK design perfectly. Like it's not just a recolor of those, but I love what they did here. We also have the like stenciled edges, and then when you go in, we have this under the dust jacket. Like anytime you can give me a gorgeous naked hardcover, I'm a sucker for it. And then we do also have gorgeous end papers. So in general, Illumicrate has gorgeous books. I have not read this one yet, obviously, because I'm really bad about getting these and then not reading them, but I do believe it is going to be a like Scottish sort of story. It has magic, it has like a musical element because we have like a harp or something. I'm excited for it, but also in general, it is a gorgeous book. And then finally, number 13, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I'm not planning too far ahead with this because I have no idea what I'm actually even going to read next month, like for sure. But I made a video at the end of last year going into this year of the 22 books I want to read in 2022. I have not checked that video since I made it. And so the thing is, I don't even know if I've read anything off that list. But in general, if I'm going to like try to read things by the end of the year and be like, this is what I'm going to try and read, it should be books off of that list because I made it for a reason. Those are books I definitely owned already and wanted to read. And yeah, I have no idea how well I have done or not done with that list, but that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say the 22 books that I wanted to read by the end of 2022 because I know I wanted to do that. And then that is everything for this tag. I would normally say we should probably tag some people in this video because that's like how tags work. However, this is one of those videos that is a staple here on BookTube. If you have not done it already, it is time to do it for this year. And so if you want to do it, get the questions, do it, because like this is just, it's a standard here on BookTube, and so everybody should be tagged just automatically. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I currently have videos up right now on Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!